So language is a system of communication that uses symbols like words, gestures, or signs to convey meaning. It helps people express thoughts, emotions, and information. Identity, it refers to the characteristics, qualities, beliefs, values, and expressions that make a person or group distinct. It can include aspects such as culture, ethnicity, language, nationality, gender, and personal experiences. Language and identity are deeply connected. Language is not only a tool for communication, but also a key part of how individuals and groups express and maintain their identity. The way people speak reflects their cultural background, social group, and personal history. Similarly, that identity can influence language use such as dialect, accent, or choice of words. Language helps shapes how we see ourselves and how others perceive us. So we've chosen these questions because they directly explore the core idea that language and identity are deeply connected. It highlights how language is more than just a communication, but it reflects our cultural background, social belonging, and personal identity. So these questions, it allow us for a deeper exploration of how language is intertwined with who we are and where we are from, making them highly relevant and meaningful in understanding the relationship between language and identity.
Statement of the problem. Language is not just a tool for communication. It is a fundamental aspect of how individuals and groups define themselves. In a words increasingly shaped by migration, globalization, and digital interaction, understanding the connection between language and identity has become critical. This study seeks to explore how linguistic practices influence personal self-conception and collective cultural belonging.
So in literature review, Shari Babaki 2018 explained that sometimes individual speakers maintain dual identities by use of two linguistic varieties to communicate in double speech communities. It says that people sometimes use two different languages to show they belong to two different groups. But according to Hulan 2001 and Norton 2010, that others show that learning a language is not just about talking, it's also about feeling like you belong to a new group and having a better future. But according to Norton 2013, language learners often invest in language not only for practical communication but also to access imagined identities and social futures. But according to TOEFL 1981, it asserts that social identity is maintained and negotiated through group language practices. It adds that using group language helps people keep their group identity.
Buckles M. and Hall K. 2005, Identity and Interaction, a Sociocultural Linguistic Approach. This foundational paper introduced a sociocultural linguistic framework that sees identity as emergent from interaction. Instead of viewing identity as fixed or solely psychological, Buckles and Hall argue that identity is constructed through language and social context. They present 5 key principles: emergence, positionality, indexicality, relation, and partialness, that describe how linguistic choices contribute to the ongoing creation of identities during communication. Next is Joseph J. A. 2004, Language and Identity, National, Ethnic, Religious. Joseph explored how language plays a central role in the formation of collective identities, particularly national, ethnic, and religious. He discusses how language policies, naming practices, and discourses on language purity often reflect deeper ideologically struggles. This work is crucial for understanding how language becomes a site for contesting power and belonging at both individual and institutional levels. Last is Pavlenko A. and Blackledge A. 2004, Negotiation of Identities in Multilingual Contexts. This edited volume examines how people in multilingual settings navigate and negotiate their identities across different linguistic and cultural boundaries.
Sociolinguistic studies how society influence the way people speak. It looks at how things like social rules and group identity affect language use. Researchers like Holmes and Wilson in 2017 and Carranza in 2017 says that who we are in the situation we're in a both shape how we speak. William Labouve in 1972, a key figure in sociolinguistics, found that people speak differently based on their race, class, and gender.
Let's talk about the key issues, goals, and problems of the study. This study looks at how language influences the way people see themselves and how they connect with their culture. One of the main issues that language is often a big part of personal identity. Many people feel more like themselves when they speak their native language. The study also explored how language helps people feel like they belong to a certain culture or community. Other focus is on how people who speak more than one language switch between them in different situations, which help them fit in or express different sides of who they are. The study also looks at the problems some people faces, such as being judged or discriminated against for speaking their native language, which can affect their confidence and sense identity. Lastly, it examined how learning and using multiple languages can shape a person's identity in a new and sometimes complicated ways. The goal of this study is to better understand how language affects identity and belonging in today's diverse world.
Now, I'll be taking my part, which is the methodology. And the case design for the study, we decided to take a qualitative approach. We felt this was the best fit because we really wanted to explore people's personal experiences and understand their perspective in depth, something numbers alone can capture. We're using a case study design which allows us to focus closely on a specific group and learn as much as we can about their unique experiences within their real life context. And for the participants of this study, we will be working with 10 participants, all from diverse linguistic backgrounds. The goal is to bring a variety of perspectives shaped by different cultural and language experiences. We're using purposive sampling, which means we'll be selecting participants based on how relevant the experience are to our research topic. And last, for the data gathering procedures, to collect our data, we'll conduct in-depth interviews. This will be one-on-one conversations guided by open-ended questions, but we'll also make space for participants to speak freely and share their stories in their own words. We aim to create a safe and comfortable space for honest conversations. With participants' consent, we'll record the interviews, transcribe them, and analyze the data to identify the common themes and meaningful insights.
To better understand the results of our case study on language and identity, we presented the key findings in a pie chart. These numbers show how often each idea came up in our conversations with participants. We had a total of 10 participants. Each of them responded to key 5 questions. To compute the percentage for each category, we first gathered the total number of responses from all participants across the 5 questions. So, the discrimination is 6. Proud in speaking native language or feel disconnected when discouraged to speak native language is 7. Cultural connection is 9. And adjust language depending on the setting is 10. Adding this together, we get a total of 40 responses. To find the percentage for each category, we divide the number of responses in that category by the total of 40 responses, and then multiply by 100. Experience discriminations, 6 divided 40 times 100 is 15%. Proud using native language is 20%. Disconnected is 17.5%. Cultural is 22.5%. And adjust language is 25%. So this method helped us show how often each term appeared in the data. The study also showed that multilingual individuals adjust their language based on different social settings, which reflects on how flexible identify can be. However, the experience of discriminations or judgment based on language use reveals that not all equally, which affects on how people express themselves in public and private space.
So in discussion, the results of this study highlights how strongly language is tied to a person's sense of identity and belonging. So many participants share that speaking their native language helps them feel more connected to their culture, family, and personal history. So this shows that language is more than a way to talk. It carries emotional and cultural meaning. So for those who lost their native language or rarely use it, there was often a feeling of disconnection or loss of identity. So the study also found that multilingual individuals use different languages depending on their environment, that showing that identity can change based on social situations. However, some participants also experienced discrimination for using their language, which affected their confidence and made them feel excluded. So, this finding suggests that while language can be empowering, can also be a barrier in a certain social setting. To support identity and inclusion, it is important to respect and value all languages and the people who speak them. So, in conclusion, the study shows that language is very important in shaping who we are and how we see ourselves. The language people speak is often closely connected to their identity and culture. So, speaking one's native language can make people feel proud and give them a strong sense of belonging. But when people lose their language or are forced to stop using it, they may feel lost or disconnected. So, people who speak more than one language often switch between them depending on where they are or who they are with. This shows that identity can change with different situations. However, language can also be a reason for unfair treatment, especially when others judge someone for the way they speak. In the end, this study shows that language is more than just a way to talk. It is a big part of who we are.